Previously on the Wheel of Time.
Okay, this place is cursed. Nobody touch anything. Matt? Yeah, I'm gonna take this. This is mine now. Finders keepers. You're an ogre.
That's Ogier.
Lan, please, you're embarrassing me. We only have 2 more episodes left in the first season of the Wheel of Time, and there's a lot riding on those. Episode 6 is kind of that calm before the storm. Brandon Sanderson has said this is his favorite episode so far, so let's talk about it. Welcome back to another Wheel of Time recap / review. This time we're talking about episode 6, The Flame of Tar Valon. If you're new to the channel and you haven't subscribed yet, then please do so because the Dark Friends are holding me captive. And I need your help. They said they'll consider setting me free when I reach 50,000 subscribers. I don't make the rules. The wheel weaves as the wheel wills. 1 subscribe equals 1 dead Trolloc. Guaranteed. Now, I will mention a few changes from the books, but I won't be spoiling anything. This time we delve deeper into the intricate world of the Aes Sedai and the White Tower. Honestly, this episode could have been called The Many Faces of Moiraine Damodred. Seriously, Rosamund Pike delivers so many different facial expressions in this episode. We see sort of a day in the life of Moiraine. We see her drinking tea, pretending she's not the babysitter for 5 young adults, one of which who could potentially destroy the world. Oh, but wait, they're right behind her. We see more drama between her and her Red Aja co-workers. We see her talking with a colleague in the sauna, letting her hair down at the end of the day, and meeting up with a secret office lover. I feel like this episode worked on giving life to Moiraine so she doesn't just feel like a plot device that's being used to find which of the 5 is the dragon. She's a human being, not just a mysterious wizard. Knowing that there's a Dark One, an ancient force of evil that is plotting to destroy the world is all well and good, but it's not really a personal threat. And it's a classic fantasy trope that we've seen so many times before, it's hard to find enthusiasm for it. This episode shows us there's some more intimate human issues at hand. This episode doesn't really have much violence or even action at all. Well, never mind. What I'm trying to say is that nobody dies this week, and there's no monsters. Unless you count Liandrin, which we probably should. Instead, we get more info on the politics of the tower, which gives us insight on how hard Moiraine's mission has been and how long she's been planning it for, not to mention who she's been working with all these years. And then the episode ends with the first time this show has actually startled me. Okay, we got a lot to talk about. Now, as always, I'm gonna recommend you check out the animated bonus content for this episode. On Prime, you can find the bonus section right underneath the episodes and also when you pause the video. This time we get an animation giving us a look into the Ogier's life. You learn more about the steading, where these gentle giants come from. Honestly, I would have loved it if they just animated the entire series with this art style. The bonus content is awesome, so you shouldn't skip it. Episode 6 begins at a place known as the Fingers of the Dragon in the nation of Tyr. In this vast connection of waterways, we meet young Swan Sanche fishing with her father. Swan begins using the one power to help her father, who only has one hand, which is forbidden to be used here, and it looks like somebody spotted her. Maybe she shouldn't have been doing all the hand movements if this is forbidden. This is not Naruto. That is not needed to use the one power. I like that Swan being able to untie a knot with channeling is sort of a nod to how she's good with puzzles. They burn down her home and leave a dragon fang symbol. When a dragon fang is put on someone's door, it usually suggests that someone living there is a dark friend. So she's forced to leave, and apparently she's just gonna sail on her way to Tar Valon? What? This is a pretty big distance to be traveling alone, with barely any supplies. Also, her dad doesn't have a home now, and with only one hand, it's probably gonna be difficult to build a new one. I'm just gonna pretend that he lived out the rest of his days in peace. Now, you may have noticed in the background of these scenes, you can see the Stone of Tyr rising above the treetops. This will mean nothing to you right now if you haven't read the books, but it's a nice detail. Fast forward to present day, and our Aes Sedai, with Logain in tow, are arriving at the White Tower. We see the second in command with a powerful voice announcing the Amerlin seat. Who we see is a grown-up Swan Sanche. The young girl from the fishing village is now head over all Aes Sedai. Now, I mentioned in the previous episode how I like that the show has these over-the-head shots with circular themes to sort of represent the wheel. And we see that again here. Now, each of the 7 Aja are represented by 3 people known as sitters. And if you pay attention, you'll notice that Karini's spot in the green is now absent. The Amyrlin commands Loghain, the false dragon, to be brought in, and he's basically begging them to kill him, but they take him away to be imprisoned. And then a trial is held for the unauthorized gentling of Loghain. Up for question is Moiraine and her rival Liandrin and her ally Alanna. At one point, Liandrin reminds Swan that she came from the Blue Aja, suggesting that she would favor Moiraine. This is a very rude thing to say to the Amyrlin, who represents all 7 Aja. Surprisingly, Moiraine backs up Liandrin in her decision to gentle Loghain instead of struggling to contain him for a proper trial. But then of course Liandrin, like the red sister she is, does not return the favor. In fact, she kinda gets Moiraine in a little bit of trouble, forcing her to account for the last 2 years of wandering that she's been doing since she last left the tower. Moiraine over and over refuses to give the nature of her quest, which in turn is basically sentencing herself to severe punishment, as the Amyrlin seat basically takes this as a challenge to her authority. The Amyrlin even says that maybe it's her royal upbringing that makes her think she can do what she pleases, and this gets a gasp from the other sisters. I won't spoil anything, but due to Moraine's uncle, the noble House Damodred isn't really well liked. Liandrin looks so smug that Moiraine is subservient, lying on the floor, and that she's gonna get punished. Now later on we discover Moiraine and the Amyrlin are actually secretly in a relationship, and they're working towards the same goal of finding the dragon reborn. Okay, we're gonna talk about that later on. Then as she's leaving, Liandrin's acting all catty, and Moiraine just gives her this look like she's just so tired of all this crap. After this, Moiraine is having some tea to calm her nerves before going to Mat and exorcising him of this evil. She tells the innkeeper not to interrupt no matter what he hears. And when she enters, Rand, thinking that it's Nynaeve, is kinda stunned for a while and has this long pause. I love how Lan's all like,
"Oh, it's nice to see you too."
Now Rand is thinking that Moiraine is gonna gentle him, so he gets up to protect his friend, he pulls out the heron-marked blade, and Lan, of course, easily takes him down. And then Mat's all like, "Bah!" Moiraine uses the one power to take the dagger, and I love how she just gives this tired look, and she says, "Oh, you stupid boy, you took this from Shadar Logoth. Mat, they even warned you not to touch anything." She continues to pull this disgusting black tendrils from his mouth that like attach to her mouth, almost like whatever this evil is trying to get into her as well. Then she manages to seal it into the dagger. Anyway, Rand thanks her for saving his friend and says that he saw the darkness trying to overtake her. Moiraine mentions that Mat is stronger than he has any right to be. If he weren't, the dagger would have consumed him weeks ago. It was feeding off the darkness in him as much as he was in it. And if he touches it again, he may be lost forever. So let me just say that this was done very differently than the books. In the books, it took an entire group of Aes Sedai to separate the dagger from Mat, and it doesn't happen till a bit later. Now this is just a theory, but I think that maybe Moiraine hasn't fully cleansed that evil from Mat, and especially with the ending of this episode, I think maybe he's gonna go back and find the dagger. I could see that happening, otherwise I feel like this was kind of resolved too quickly and sort of nonchalantly. I never use that word. Then Moiraine gets mad at Nynaeve, obviously because she didn't tell her about Mat, saying that her pride could have gotten her friend killed, and I think this hits home for Nynaeve. Then I love how she moves in real close and says, "If wisdom is the title you claim, I suggest you start using some." Moiraine then has a meeting in the bath, because who doesn't have meetings in the bath? Hey, she had a long day, okay? She's talking with Mygan, the leader of the Blue, and we get some important info here. Ships are disappearing from the west coast, and Aiel have been spotted, not to mention an Aes Sedai sunk the Terran ferry. Hopefully that guy's son is okay. At least they're reimbursing the family for the ferry. That makes up for it. Now I do just want to say, without spoiling anything, I hope that the end of this season ends with us discovering why these ships are disappearing. If you know what I mean, people who read the books will understand. Anyway, later on Moiraine is led to Egwene and Perrin, and when Egwene asks if Rand and Mat have arrived, she just says that she has people watching for their arrival and has on good authority that they're alive. Here again, we see her doing that Aes Sedai not quite lying thing, and I think the reason she's doing this is to kind of control the Emon Fielders so that they don't all meet up together and then Liandrin goes and finds out, or somebody else. She knows that Perrin and Egwene were taken by the White Cloaks, and then Egwene's like, "I took something from them," and hands her all the Aes Sedai rings that she stole from Valda. I still love that Egwene did that. She also tells him how Perrin's eyes went golden, and then the wolves seemed to kind of listen to him, and he wasn't scared of them. Moiraine insinuates that there's those that could assume that Perrin is a dark friend or a channeler, so it's best that she doesn't mention his golden eyes to anyone. Does this mean he's the dragon? We don't really know because we don't know what powers the dragon's gonna have. But let me know if you haven't read the books who you think the dragon is as of yet. Okay, it's nighttime. Moiraine is in her very empty room besides one dresser. Here we learn that Aes Sedai can block the bond between them and their warder. Moiraine does this so Lan would focus more on the Emond's Field 5 and so she can have some personal time with the Amyrlin. Now this magical doorway she goes through seems to be some sort of ter'angreal, an object of the One Power. Now the room that Moiraine arrives in looks sort of like a fishing hut in Tyr, and I'm guessing this is actually in the Dream Realm, which I won't elaborate on because of spoilers. So when I was first watching this, I was not expecting what was to come at all, but I was kind of wondering, why is Moiraine dressed like that? And also, is there some tension here? Okay, that would be why. So Moiraine and Siuan are secretly lovers. Not only are they working together, but they're also secretly lovers, so there's kind of a bit of a scandal going on here. And Moiraine gives a remix of the On Your Knees line that was earlier. Well, that really puts the flame in the flame of Tar Valon. Afterwards, Moiraine is telling her that she doesn't know which of the 5 is the dragon. Also, Moiraine has heard stories from a gleeman about a many-headed dragon, like a hydra maybe, and she's wondering if multiple people can be the dragon. Okay, imagine if this season ended like the Murder on the Orient Express. So it turns out that the Amyrlin has been having dreams where the Dark One is vulnerable, and he's at the Eye of the World. And she thinks they just gotta bring the dragon there and throw him at the Dark One like a ragdoll. That'll get the job done. So I guess they're just gonna chuck them all at the Dark One and see what happens. So I guess that's the excuse they have to go to the Eye of the World. I mean, in the book, it wasn't really that great of a reason either. Moiraine does also mention that she doesn't think Nynaeve is the dragon because she's too old, according to the prophecies. So why then does she go along with them? I'll talk about this again later on. It's also mentioned that the Dark One's prison is at the Eye of the World, which that's not true. That's a pretty big change. But I am gonna give them the benefit of the doubt here. I think that this is unreliable information and we're just meant to believe that right now, just like Moiraine is. Did Moiraine make it back by dawn? We don't know, but the next day she and Lan run into Liandrin in the hallway, who basically points out that she knows about Matt Cawthorn, she knows about Perrin and Egwene and Rand. She knows all of them. She's all smug and snooty that she knows about all the Emond's Fielders. The thing is though, if Liandrin knew about them, why didn't she go to them and try to befriend them to get information like she kinda tried to do with Nynaeve? She could probably have sabotaged Moiraine's plans a lot more, but instead she just kinda dangles that information in front of Moiraine. I love how Moiraine gets right up in her face and tells her that she knows about the man that she's been seeing in North Harbor, and that she'll tell the other Red Sisters about him. So is this a lover that Liandrin is seeing, or a dark friend? Let me know what you think. We then see that Moiraine has been planning with Loial. It's almost the end of the season and we did not get enough Loial yet. Moving to the next scene, we see Moiraine giving Egwene a tour of the Hall of the Tower, and Egwene makes a comment that it's confusing for the woman in the throne to be named the same thing as the throne itself, which yeah, it kinda is. Nynaeve and Egwene are reunited and the Amyrlin has requested to see them both. But Nynaeve says she can wait, and Moiraine replies, Siuan Sanche waits for only one woman, and it's not you. One of my favorite moments of the episode is in the next scene when we see Egwene's face after Siuan says, I've been told you're the most powerful channeler we've seen in 1,000 years, Nynaeve Almira. At this point, Egwene has no idea that Nynaeve can channel. Anyway, then after this beautiful balcony shot, we have Moiraine's trial, where she's exiled from the tower and she has to swear on the sacred oath rod that she'll obey this punishment. In all honesty, this whole part is just so stupid because it makes no sense. To be an Aes Sedai, you have to swear the 3 oaths on the oath rod, one of which is that you can never lie. They could easily just ask her, are you going to obey these orders? And she has to reply with yes. There's no point for the oath rod. I just think it's very obvious that doesn't make sense, even for new viewers. They already know about the 3 oaths. I'm sure they just wanted to show this magical artifact, but they could have shown like a flashback of Moiraine swearing her oaths, or just show the oath rod later on in the show. Anyway, the Amyrlin is getting very emotional here, obviously because the exile is going to affect their relationship as well, but I feel like maybe tearing up is showing too much emotion to the other sisters, especially with the scandal they got going on. I don't know, maybe the Amyrlin shows this much emotion for all the sisters. Or I guess to her, their daughters, because she's the mother. This adds a weird spin to their relationship. What I mean to say is all the other Aes Sedai. And then the other sisters all turn their back on Moiraine, and it just feels very overly dramatic to me. Just like the Warder funeral last episode, it just kind of makes me roll my eyes. I feel like they're trying a little bit too hard to grab at the viewer's emotions when there just isn't really enough time for that. I mean, we kinda just learned about their secret relationship, so it's a little bit too early to pull at the heartstrings. Also, it's until the mother chooses to call her back, so it's not really that big of a punishment. I do like how this punishment is basically just a way for Moiraine to continue her mission and have an explainable way to keep this a secret from all the other Aes Sedai. Then Moiraine rides off and the Fellowship of the Dragon reunites and there's hugs all around, and Loyal is now officially part of the team. So this is meant to be a really happy reunion, but I feel like we just didn't get enough time or chemistry between the Emmons 5. And this is where I feel like the first episode really failed. Episode 1 should have made us more attached to these characters. We should have had a lot more interaction between them and give us a reason to care about them. But in episode 1 of the Wheel of Time, it all just kind of happened so fast. And Egwene asks what's gonna happen to the people that aren't the dragon. And there's just kind of this long, awkward pause, so I think they all kind of know that they're going to die. Or Moiraine had a stroke. Now this had me wondering if everyone who isn't the dragon could possibly die, why is Nynaeve coming along? She's already been ruled out because she's too old. You would think the Amyrlin would be intent on Nynaeve staying at the tower, learning to become less hostile to the Aes Sedai, and begin training her to reach her full potential, because apparently she's the strongest channeler in the last 1,000 years. I assume that's a pretty big deal. This is just something that stood out to me. I know that Nynaeve is kind of that mama bear to the Emmons Fielders, so she wouldn't want to stay, but I just feel like there should have been more of a fight for her to want to go. The fact that they all went to the tower and then left so quickly just felt kinda rushed. Then Moiraine activates the Waygate, and it looks like they changed how Waygates work. In the books, each Waygate possesses 2 Avendasora leaves, one on the outside matched by a second on the inside, and to activate a gate, you need to move the leaf on one side to a nearby access point. But here we see Moiraine activating it just by channeling. But the thing is that Ogier are meant to be able to use the ways, and they can't channel. So maybe the show will also include a non-channeling way to open the Waygates, otherwise they kinda wrote themselves into a corner. And a channeler is always going to be needed to open these gates. I feel like it would have been a good idea to have Loyal open it to give him more of a purpose, and it would save money on the channeling special effects. And then the Waygate begins to close, but Matt is left behind. And honestly, this made me so sad because we know this is the end of the line for Barney Harris. If you don't know, he's being recast for season 2. Donald Finn is taking over. It is almost unheard of for one of the main cast members to be recast before a show even airs. And we don't really know the reasoning behind this. I've heard that apparently Barney Harris has taken down his social media, and this all happened during COVID, so maybe it's a health-related thing. I don't really know, but it's just very sad to know that this is the last we see of him. You can tell that Matt's reactions don't really belong there. They're just kind of awkwardly edited in. It looks like they're just kind of using B-roll of whatever they had of him, and I'm sure they had to reshoot the whole Waygate scene to make everybody yelling at him to kind of make it fit in, as best they could anyway. I'm sure this came as a big surprise to them, so I can't really be too critical that it seems a bit awkward. I'm guessing that when Donald Finn takes over, he's gonna be Matt again going after the dagger, and we're gonna continue from there. So overall, I thought this was a pretty intriguing episode. It had a lot of world building for the Aes Sedai. I think the one problem is that there just isn't enough emotional connection with the main 5 from the 2 rivers. I also feel like Loyal's motivations and character are very underdeveloped, and I'm hoping he gets more fleshed out in the next episode. And I'm pretty sure the next 2 episodes are gonna be very action-packed. Now, I've gotten a lot of new subscribers from posting these videos, and I just wanna say thank you for finding my channel and for watching my videos. Anyway, let me know what you think in the comments, let me know your favorite parts, or if you got any hot takes. Also, don't forget to subscribe. You gotta help me fight the dark, friends. If you want an extra way to help support the channel, then make sure to check out my Patreon.